Hello audience, Mr. Z here yet again. Oh, the Austro-Prussian War. Many of you likely have never heard of it and may not think it all too significant. And that's understandable in comparison to the neighboring Franco-Prussian War. It's easy to overlook. However, this was fairly, or rather highly significant to the birth of the German Empire and in tandem World Wars I and II. Some might know this war as the Unification War, and that is because it was instrumental in the uniting of the German states into the German Empire. In our timeline, Prussia assimilated these states into their border and created Germany, while also stealing the seat of Germanic dominance from Austria. Italy also involved itself on the side of Prussia in hopes of snatching some land from Austria, while France watched smugly rooting for Prussian defeat. And inversely, Russia hoped for Austria to see a painful demise as it was still bitter at the empire for its actions in the Crimean War. Of course, Prussia won and Germany was formed, much to France's disappointment and screaming horror. However, what if Austria had instead maintained dominance over these territories and won the Austro-Prussian War? Well, these southern German territories would likely fall further and further under Austrian rule, while Prussia held its ground in the northern German provinces, neither forming Germany but rather expanding their borders by annexing the Germanic states. What does this mean for Europe? Well, a whole lot actually. I could still imagine Prussia and France maintaining stringent relations and butting heads over claims to land, while Austria still becomes the unstable powder keg it is by housing so many ethnic groups who quite simply didn't get along within Austria's political system. However, the playing field for what would be World War I is now changed drastically. Prussia, now with its rivalry reignited, can't include Austria in the Triple Alliance, and instead pursues to align with Russia and Italy in their mutual animosity toward the Austrian Empire, eventually drawing Serbia, Romania, and Bulgaria, who sought land gains from Austria at the same time. All the while, France could now no longer pursue an alliance with Russia as they had in our timeline. Russia was now aligned with Prussia, who was becoming an increasing nuisance and possible threat to the French Empire, which would continue on in this timeline as the Franco-Prussian War likely would not have happened, or if it did, would not be as significant. This would lead France to establish closer ties with Austria and reinforce the Franco-Ottoman alliance as tensions burned between the Ottomans, Russia, and Italy in the Italo-Turkish War. And of course the Balkan Wars, leaving many divided on exactly which side to take, but ultimately bringing Greece, Albania, and Montenegro over to the side of Austria and France to protect against what they perceived as a threat to their sovereignty by Romania, Serbia, and Bulgaria. Britain would also be on the fence about which side to join, however initially would support France non-militarily after it became clear that Prussia was a rising military threat, and the whole, well, Anglo-Prussian arms race debacle. In terms of total support, Prussia, Russia, and Italy would have the military support of Bulgaria, Romania, and Serbia, as well as the economic and resource support of Sweden and Denmark, while France and Austria could call upon Greece, Albania, and Montenegro for military support, as well as the Ottoman Empire, while they had the resources and economic support of Britain, Norway, and Portugal. Overall, not too bad, but frankly the French and Austrian militaries leave a little something to be desired, as France, in our timeline, had drawn many soldiers from their African colonies during World War I, meaning that many of their soldiers would have either been undertrained or not as invested in the French war effort as a French national would have been. Likewise, Austria had an army made up of numerous non-Germanic Austrians, people who very much did not like the Austrian system and very much wanted to break away. The stage is set, the pieces are in play, and boom, Franz Ferdinand is assassinated, Serbia is invaded, and war begins. However, this time around, it isn't the Central Powers going at this together. No, this is an internally disorganized and unstable Austria being surrounded by Prussian, Italian, and Russian forces. Yes, you can say what you want about the Russian and Italian militaries in World War I, but given the sheer discontent within the Austrian Empire and the fact that many Austrian citizens simply refused outright to fight for the empire on grounds of nationalistic separation from Austria, it is at least fair to say that these three nations could eventually overwhelm and engulf Austria, as it would only really have the immediate aid of France to rely upon, as Bulgarian and Romanian forces would make quick work of Greece, Albania, and Montenegro. France would push directly into the Austrian border, but come to a standstill once it was met with the Prussian army, forcing the two into a stalemate situation along that front, while France also attempted to route its troops through Italy, taking significantly more land. Within the first few months, things would already look pretty bad for the Entente, as Austria would fall to the Triple Alliance, and not wanting to involve themselves in what was clearly becoming a one-sided battle, the Ottomans and British would withdraw themselves from the conflict entirely, allowing Prussia to slowly creep its way into France, capturing Paris before a complete conquest of Italy could be pulled off by the French military. Austria is broken up amongst the Triple Alliance, and the three grow stronger. Prussia annexing Germanic Austria and forming Greater Germany, Italy annexing Italian portions of France and Austria, while Russia expands its borders further westward. Hungary would gain independence, and an alternate version of Yugoslavia would be formed out of Albania and Serbia. The Russian Civil War never happens, as Germany would never send Lenin back to Russia, and the losses of war are never tremendously felt by Russia. Germany doesn't face the same hyperinflation it saw in our timeline, and neither France nor Britain face the significant famines brought about by the war. And the Ottomans are still around, though likely not for very long, possibly facing a fate identical to Austria, and the Kingdom of Italy is actually moving along quite prosperously. World War I never really becomes a world war. The conflict is large, but mostly concentrated within the European continent, and wouldn't even see the major intervention of Britain. Germany still exists, the Soviet Union never forms, and Italy is happily making pizzas for all its best buddies. Yes, folks, this truly is the best possible timeline. Pretty much everything is better, because Germany didn't exist for about 50 more years, and Britain decided not to get itself involved. What's the moral of this story? Well, when two people are fighting and you get the police involved, you just make things worse for everybody. Why would you want to do that to poor little Italy? Look at this little guy. He's never hurt anyone. He can't hurt anyone. Just look the other way and everyone will be Well, that's where I'm going to end this scenario for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more. Mr. Z, out.